Welcome to this explainer. Look, whether you're hitting the squat rack, running a 10K, or literally just lugging heavy groceries up the stairs, your muscles are constantly adapting to the demands you place on them. Today, we're embarking on a super fascinating chronological journey into the human body. We're going to look at the exact blueprint of what happens from the very second you pick up a weight, all the way to the moment you rest your head on the pillow. But here's kind of the ultimate paradox, right? And it's a question I want you to keep in the back of your mind as we go. Why do our muscles actually grow when we literally break them down? It sounds totally backwards. Think of your body like a highly efficient construction site. The workout itself, that's just the demolition phase. The real magic, the rebuilding and the strengthening, that happens entirely after you've left the gym. Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to cover meet your skeletal muscles, the mechanics of movement, damage, tearing to build, the magic of satellite cells, and finally, the science of recovery.
All right, part one, meet your skeletal muscles.
So you've got over 650 named skeletal muscles in your body. Actually, scratch that. Some experts argue that number reaches all the way up to 840, depending on how you categorize the really complex ones. And yeah, spoiler alert, your gluteus maximus is the biggest one back there. Together, these muscles are doing a lot of heavy lifting for you every single day, literally making up roughly a third to a half of your total body mass. Now, these skeletal muscles are tethered to your bones by incredibly tough, fibrous bands called tendons. They bind us together, they hold us up, and they let us move. But they also have this other absolutely brilliant function. Think about the last time you stepped outside into the freezing cold and instantly started to shiver. That wasn't just some random reflex. That was your brain involuntarily commanding your skeletal muscles to contract, just to pump out heat and maintain your core body temperature. Let's move to section 2 and see how this builds. The mechanics of movement. So how do we actually go from a thought to a physical action? Well, if you try to open a door, your brain zaps a signal down to motor neurons inside your arm, telling them to contract and relax. But if that door is made of solid, heavy iron, your arm muscles alone aren't going to cut it. Your brain scales up the signal, recruiting your planted feet, your tightened core, and your tensed back to generate the force you need. And when those muscles go to work, they basically contract in 3 distinct ways. Step 1 is an isometric contraction. This is stationary, like holding a plank. Step 2 is concentric, where the muscle actively shortens. Picture the upward motion of a bicep curl. And step 3 is eccentric, where the muscle actually lengthens while under tension, like slowly lowering that bicep curl back down. Now, you definitely want to take special note of that eccentric phase because scientists have found that this specific lengthening under tension creates highly effective conditions for brand new muscle growth. Which brings us perfectly into section 3, damage, tearing to build. Welcome to the demolition phase of our construction analogy. To build new muscle, our bodies go through a process called muscular hypertrophy. Because our bodies are already so adapted to our everyday routines, we have to expose our muscle fibers to higher workloads than they're normally used to. When we do this, the muscle fibers actually sustain microscopic damage and tiny little tears. If you've ever woken up incredibly sore the day after a tough workout, well, that's exactly what you're feeling. But don't panic. In this context, this microscopic damage is an absolutely essential trigger for growth. Have you ever felt that deep, intense burn during a workout? That burn is one of the key activators for repair. To get your muscles to grow, you essentially need 3 things to happen. You need muscle tension, from lifting progressively heavier weights. You need muscle damage, which releases these inflammatory molecules called cytokines that flag down your immune system. And you need metabolic stress, which is that burning sensation that causes the cells around the muscle to swell up. Together, this trio signals your body that it is time to start rebuilding. All right, section 4, the magic of satellite cells. So, the alarm bells have been rung. The immune system is wide awake. Enter satellite cells. These are a special type of stem cell hanging out right outside your muscle fibers. When those cytokines sound the alarm, these cells rush straight to those microscopic tears. They replicate, they mature, and they literally fuse to your damaged muscle fibers to lay down brand new, thicker, and stronger protein strands. And this brilliantly illustrates how they don't just work alone. They get a massive assist from naturally occurring hormones like testosterone and insulin-like growth factor, which basically shift the whole body into an optimal tissue-building state. Now, what's really interesting about this data is that this repair process, it's definitely not identical for everyone. Genetics play a massive role here. Research shows that people respond wildly differently to muscle damage. In one study, non-responders literally saw 0% growth and no satellite cell activation. Modest responders bumped up about 28%, but extreme responders, those folks with highly robust immune reactions, saw a massive 58% increase in muscle growth. So, if you build muscle incredibly fast, you can definitely thank your genetics and your highly active satellite cells.
Moving on to our final phase, Section 5, the science of recovery.
But look, regardless of your genetics, those satellite cells absolutely cannot do their jobs without recovery. This is where the body returns to homeostasis. Recovery is really built on 3 critical pillars. First up is nutrition. Protein is non-negotiable because it provides the amino acids that act as the literal physical building blocks for new tissue. But you also need carbohydrates to restore your depleted energy in the form of glycogen, a process called glycogenesis. Second is hydration. Water's obviously essential, and some pretty cool research even suggests tart cherry juice can really help knock down inflammation. And third is rest, which means mixing deep sleep with active recovery, like yoga or like walking, just to help circulate waste products right out of the muscle.
I actually want to pause on hydration for a second, because if you're skipping hydration, you are totally sabotaging your growth. When you sweat, you lose vital fluids. Dry muscles simply cannot contract properly because they lack internal lubrication. This doesn't just cause fatigue and headaches, it drastically increases your risk of severe muscle strain and injury.
And what about stretching to help recovery? Okay, we definitely need to bust a major myth right here. So many of us grew up doing static stretching before gym class. You know the drill. Standing perfectly still, trying to touch your toes while the PE teacher yells out the count. Well, experts have actually found that static stretching before a workout can lead to premature fatigue and even muscle damage. Instead, you should be doing dynamic stretching, compound mobile movements like lunges and air squats to prepare the body. Save those static stretches for the cool-down phase, when you need to move lactic acid out of your system. So the crucial point is this: without proper rest, and specifically high-quality sleep, your body simply cannot repair those damaged fibers. The actual muscle growth happens at night while you are resting in bed, not while you're repping out dumbbells. Continuously exposing your muscles to stress without letting them recover just leads to overexertion. On the flip side, if you completely stop resisting your muscles, they'll shrink in a process called muscular atrophy. It is all about finding that perfect balance.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this incredibly powerful thought from our sources. Quote, "It is with muscles as it is with life. Meaningful growth requires challenge and stress. Your body is just a miraculous, highly adaptable machine. If you safely tear those muscles up, eat right, rest, and repeat, you are unlocking your ultimate biological potential." So, knowing what you know now about the incredible micro-universe operating inside your limbs, if our muscles are this highly adaptable to targeted stress and damage, what other biological systems in your body are just waiting to be challenged so they can level up?